good afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. It's time for the Tuesday night EFL preview here on the channel. My name is Sam Rourke, the Chief Editor of footballleagueworld.co.uk, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Toby Wilding and Marcus Ali. Toby, how are you getting on this afternoon?
Yeah, good, thanks. Looking forward to another round of fixtures this evening. Chance for teams to bounce back after the weekend or keep their runs going. So yeah, plenty of stuff to keep an eye on and talk about here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Marcus, how are you getting on?
Yeah, really well, thanks. Never a moment's peace in the EFL, is there? Straight back in with loads of games and loads of huge storylines that will play out tonight. So yeah, glad to be on previewing the matches.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got fixtures in the Sky Bet Championship League 1 and League 2 this evening. We're going to be discussing 6 fixtures across 3 of the divisions in detail for this afternoon's show. Just a reminder, we are broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. So get yourself in the comments. Are you off to an EFL fixture this evening? Send in your score predictions as well. But as we always do, let's start off with the Championship. Okay, we're going to start off with Barnsley versus Bristol City this evening. A big game for Poya Asbaghi's Tykes in particular. They currently sit 4 points adrift of Reading, who sit in the safe position of 21st. Barnsley, just when you thought they were kind of turning a corner, 2 consecutive wins recently. They've gone 3 games without a win. Drawing last time out against Fulham when they really should have won that game. A late Harry Wilson goal denying them all 3 points at Oakwell on the weekend. But they've got a chance this evening to get back on the winning trail against a Bristol City side who are pretty inconsistent. You don't really know what Bristol City team are going to turn up. Toby, let's come to you first then. Barnsley come into this game winless in their last 3 games. This must be viewed as a game that they'll be wanting to get 3 points against a side that really don't have much to play for now for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. It must be because they've got the opportunity there. I mean, as you say, it's a bit of a winless run they're on now. Just the 2 points from the last 3. But you mentioned that Fulham result. Obviously, it's going to be hard to take the fact that they conceded that late equaliser. But nevertheless, when you look at what Fulham have been doing to other teams this season, that's actually the way that game played out, the performance that Barnsley produced, and the fact that Fulham left it so late to even get a point from that game has to be a massive sort of source of confidence for the Tigers moving forward against, as you say, a Bristol City side who are just really inconsistent. They got the win at Ewood Park at the weekend against Blackburn, but with the exception of that, they've been far from convincing on the road recently, the Robins. So that has to be seen as a huge opportunity for Barnsley, and obviously they'll be well aware of the fact that Reading, they're at Bournemouth. That's a huge ask for the Royals in their current form, and if that goes as you would expect with the form guide and Bournemouth take all 3 points there, then it's an opportunity for Barnsley to really sort of put the pressure on Reading, as they've got to do in pretty much every game between now and the end of the season, especially when you consider the fact that Derby is still in there and not out of it either.
Yeah, absolutely. Marcus, how do you see this game panning out? Do you expect Poya Asbaghi's side to really play on the front foot and take it to Bristol City this evening?
I think so, yeah. It's a must-win game, really, when you're at this stage of the season and you're hosting, in particular, a side that doesn't have a lot to play for. That almost becomes more important that you maximise the points return out of that game than if you're playing someone around you, because it can be much more difficult. I saw most of Barnsley against Fulham at the weekend, and what stood out to me, even though they were fortunate to go in front of the game with that penalty, was how strong they were defensively. Obviously, Harry Wilson could have won it at the end with the header, but Barnsley did stand firm and show a lot more defensive resolve than I think I've seen from them personally this season anyway, and they seem to be building those relationships back up. Michael Hellick seems to be back to the performance levels that he was, that saw Barnsley go so close to finishing 5th in the Championship last season. So they're going to be taking a lot of momentum into it. A lot of their positive results, of course, have come at Oakwell. So in that, they will be identifying this game even more as a chance to pick up the points. Remy Vita as well as a bit of a live wire seems to have lifted his game as well in the last few weeks. So I think they're going to be looking for a solid foundation. I feel like that is the type of coach that Asbaghi is. I think he likes to get a foothold in the game before maybe being a little bit more adventurous going forward. And of course, with the likes of Bassi and Keena combining, and Morris, who I think is probably the most important out of those three players, was a real handful for Tim Ream and Adara Bayo on Saturday. So those players will come into it more as the game goes on. But it's hard to predict really, just because we know Bristol City are a very good side on their day. They can be very leaky on the bad ones. So yeah, it's going to be all on Barnsley and how adventurous they are. But I do think Asbaghi will wait until later on in the piece to really go for those 3 points. So possibly some cagey opening exchanges, but I do expect the Tykes to put their stamp and authority, because they have been playing better than Bristol City in the last month or so on the match. Eventually, it's just at what point that does come and whether they can get themselves an early lead or not as to how it does play out.
Yeah, it's interesting when a team has nothing to play for, because it really can go one of two ways. Otherwise, sometimes they take the shackles off, relax, and just enjoy their football, and sometimes that garners results. I just want to touch on Andreas Weimann, Toby. Playing, if you're watching this, you can see on the graphic that he's predicted to start in a right wing back role, which he was deployed in, wasn't he, against Blackburn on the weekend, and did actually score the winning goal. Just briefly, what did you make of him in that role? Because it's a little bit of an unfamiliar one for him, given he's played the majority of this campaign in a more advanced central role.
Yeah, as you say, it was a bit of an interesting change at that for Bristol City at the weekend, but he coped well. I mean, to be fair, it was a sort of position where Rovers did look to exploit on occasions with the pace of Reda Kadri. It gave him plenty to think about, that's for certain. But on the whole, it was a pretty strong Bristol City performance for all the talk of Blackburn's domination of possession and territory or whatever. They were really quite restricted in terms of the actual number of chances they were able to create the way you thought maybe they should actually get on the score sheet. There was the Dara Lenihan header, which produced a stunning save from Dan Bentley, and then obviously the penalty. And other than that, Bristol City very rarely look like they might concede for all the sort of territory and possession, as I'm saying that Rovers have had. And obviously as well, with regards to Weimann and that role, it was that sort of position that he was making that run in from into the area in the last minute, where he got into that position and produced an absolute brilliant volley to get the winner, no matter how fortuitous that assist might have been from Joe Williams. It was another absolutely stunning finish from Weimann. He's had an excellent season, and it just seems as though he can clearly make an impact wherever he's playing now.
Yeah, he'll undoubtedly have a say in this evening's game, you'd imagine, given his form this season. Had a prediction for tonight's game come in from Wayne Warden. Wayne, as ever, great to have you with us this afternoon here on Football League World TV. From a Fulham fan, Barnsley will win 2-1. Wayne, optimistic about the Tykes' chances this evening. Toby, let's get your score prediction for Barnsley Bristol City tonight.
Having watched Bristol City, as we say, at the weekend, they were very solid defensively, but I can see this being a tight one. I think they'll restrict Barnsley quite well, and I can see them getting on the score sheet. I'm going to go 1-1.
1-0. Marcus, what are you opting for here?
I'm going to go 1-0 Barnsley. I was tempted to sit on the fence and go for a 0-0 or a 1-0, but I think, that they have been playing well at Oakwell, and that extra bit of crowd support after a taxing away game at the weekend for Bristol City could show, and Barnsley to turn it on late on 1-0.
Yeah, Barnsley would certainly take that. That really would put the pressure on Reading, who've got a tough fixture away at AFC Bournemouth this evening. Right, let's look at another championship game next. Okay, next up, as you can see on the screen, we're going to be touching upon Blackburn Rovers against Derby County tonight at Ewood Park. Toby, you're going to be there this evening for Football League World. So to anyone watching, make sure to follow Toby on his socials. He'll be providing live updates during this evening's game. Toby, naturally, I'll come to you. It's not been a great run of form for Blackburn over the last 9 games. Only 1 win in their last 9, and during them last 9, only 1 goal as well. Toby, what's kind of going wrong for Blackburn of late?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that seems to happen on quite a regular basis at this stage of the season for Rovers since their return to the Championship. You know, the first season back, I think they endured a run of 1 win in 11. The season before, after that, obviously was interrupted. So you know, it was sort of hard to read into that. Last season it was 1 win in 15 at one point after the January window, and as you say, we're now in 1 win in 9. So yeah, it's nothing new for Rovers, and you almost feel like the more this happens season in, season out, the more psychologically it is going to play on the mind of the players, the manager, the fans, and that just builds the tension. And the longer it goes on, the harder it is to get out of. But I think, as we'll say, the clear thing for Rovers at the minute is just the lack of goals. I mean, 3 and 13 in the games in the league since the turn of the year. Just you're not going to get anywhere scoring like that. And I mean, it has put a sort of huge burden on the defence, and it's almost, you know, sort of it's thanks to that solidity they've managed to largely keep at the back that they are still picking up just about the points that are keeping them in that playoff race, and also the fact that sides around them are slipping up, and you know, you sort of feel like that's not going to go on forever. So this really is becoming a must-win game for Blackburn. But as I say, the goal scoring issue is a massive problem, and I think that goes back to sort of the decision in January not to bring in another goal scorer. You know, and I mean, I think Mowbray's had his reasons. He said it's down to the wide strikers that he likes to use, and the fact that he feels he's got plenty of options there, which is fair enough. But you still need goal scorers in that position. And you look at Blackburn this season and their sort of goal scoring record, and you've only really got Ben Brereton Diaz, who has been finding the net on a consistent basis. So it was always going to be that sort of one injury to him away from, you know, this sort of problem occurring. And so the fact that they didn't act on it now with Diaz out for quite some time, he's coming back to haunt them. And I think as well, it seems a little bit strange that they didn't sort of keep that open mind on that. And also the prospect of surely you want to have that option so you can switch systems if you need to. You know, you don't want to just be relying on that one single formation throughout the whole season, especially when, you know, you might have to fit in other players in other positions to sort of cope with sort of injuries or suspensions that might come up there. And I think as well, you know, nobody expected Blackburn to be in this position in January or even now. So, and no one is really probably going to be expecting this to happen again. So you'd think this is one chance that you've really got to go out there and take, and you'd think they'd be doing all they can to try and make sure they can get into the Premier League, and, you know, showing that sort of bit of ambition by going out and putting their money where their mouth is, by bringing in that extra goal scorer to really show the intent and give themselves that extra outlet. And I know people might point to the Dylan Markande signing, which was an excellent piece of business, but, you know, it was well before the window closed that it became apparent he was going to be out for the rest of the season with injury. So you think at that point, maybe that was something they needed to respond to him. And the other thing is he really that centre-forward option anyway, like a Diaz, or is he more of the Tyrese Dolan, the Reda Kadra sort of pacey, creative option that, you know, they already had? So, you know, that again, I think perhaps makes this a bit of a strange decision. And look, Tony Mowbray's got a lot right this season in terms of what he's got Blackburn into with this position, but that is one sort of decision that I'm sort of left questioning a bit, and I do wonder whether it could prove costly.
Yeah, okay. It definitely seems to be a major issue, the striker situation at Rovers right now. Marcus, let's look at this game then from a Derby County perspective. They are only 5 points away from 21st placed Reading. They have played a game extra though, but equally, this is, you know, a really important game for the Rams. If they pick up 3 points tonight, it still gives them a genuine chance of staying up, doesn't it?
Certainly, yeah. It's a huge opportunity given that Blackburn are still quite low on confidence. I don't think you can have a run like that and it not to take a hit. They were better than the 2-0 loss suggested at Bournemouth. Definitely should have had a penalty at 0-0. It's a game that, if that happens, it completely changes the whole shape of the rest of the match. However, I do think they might have their work cut out tonight. I know Blackburn are not the same threat since Diaz's injury. However, I think Mowbray and the Blackburn supporters' nerve is going to be tested again, because Rooney is going to be happy to sit back and absorb pressure and try and keep it to a low margin game. He doesn't have such a great squad in terms of depth at his disposal to handle these quick turnarounds. So the best approach for Derby is to try and keep a clean sheet, keep it to a 0 or a 1, and that gives them a much better chance of taking something from the game. So I can see them sitting back and Blackburn maybe sort of having a lot of possession and territory, but with the game staying at possibly 0-0 to quite late in the piece. Obviously, it almost feels like a must-win game for both sides. It feels like both sides will, if the match ends in a draw, be frustrated that they haven't picked up the extra 2 points given where they sit in the table and what they need to do between now and the end of the season. But definitely playing against Blackburn without Diaz helps them in terms of the fixture schedule and where it's come for them. And obviously, it depends sort of how emotionally Blackburn have been able to deal with that late winner for Bristol City they conceded, because it must have been extremely frustrated dressing room after that match. And good opportunity to bounce back quick back on home soil, and one of the best home records in the league for Rovers. So it's a difficult one. I think Rooney is still keeping a very positive mindset. I think he knows what Derby have already achieved this season, whether they do go on to survive or not. But it's going to be a tough one. I think Blackburn, you could argue, are probably at a similar level to Bournemouth, who they lost to at the weekend, at their best. So it is, in terms of the table, still travelling to one of the bigger sides. So I think they'll definitely be looking to sit back and hit them on the counter. But with the likes of Tom Lawrence and Ebosele, you're always in with a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. It is all set to be quite an intriguing encounter this evening at Ewood Park. I suppose if you're looking at the on-screen graphic there, the head-to-head stats over the previous 6 meetings, Blackburn certainly have the upper hand in that respect. Derby's away form as well, not necessarily the best, one of the worst in the league. Only 2 wins on the road in their 19 league games away from home this season. That is a source of concern for the Rams in their pursuit of safety this season. Right, Wayne Walden's got back in touch with his score prediction. I think that Derby will win 2-0 this evening. Toby, what's your score prediction? No bias, please.
Promise you I'm not being biased here, but I am going to go 1-0 Blackburn, and I'll go home happy if that was the score. But no, I think with the chances that Blackburn have been creating, there's a lot of games recently that they should have won. Sheffield United, Millwall, Bristol City. I do just feel like eventually something does have to give, and obviously we saw Bradley Dack back on the pitch on Saturday for the first time in exactly a year, and yes, he missed that penalty, but he was still getting in those sorts of positions that he's become synonymous with in terms of, right place, right time, bang, goal. And it didn't quite happen for him at Bristol City at the weekend, but you feel like very soon one will fall to him and he will put that in the back of the net, as he has been doing for the under-23s in building his fitness up. So I do feel like something might just go Rovers' way here, so I'll say 1-0 to the home team.
Okay, just a reminder to all those watching, Toby will be live at Ewood Park this evening for Football League World, to make sure to follow his feed. And Marcus, let's get your score prediction.
So I completely agree with Toby, to be honest. It can't go on forever. Blackburn have got the players to unpick Derby, and I think they'll have the opportunities to do so. I'm going to go 2-1.
Okay, both Toby and Marcus opting for Blackburn Rovers home wins this evening. Right, let's look at one more championship game next. Okay, let's take a look at West Bromwich Albion against Fulham, 2 of last season's relegated Premier League sides facing off this evening at the Hawthorns. They've both experienced very contrasting fortunes this season. The away side, Fulham, sit comfortably top of the championship table, 12 points clear of second-placed AFC Bournemouth. As for West Bromwich Albion, they sit in mid-table mediocrity in 14th position. Their hopes of a playoff place looking distant at this very moment. Obviously, we've seen a change in manager there. Valerian Ismail dismissed, Steve Bruce in charge. Right, Toby, let's come to you then. How do you see this game panning out this evening? I mean, the obvious favourites here are Fulham, but do you think West Brom can provide stern opposition this evening?
It's a really tough one. I mean, I think we've got to say those 10 minutes on Friday night at the end of that game at the Hawthorns were absolutely massive for West Brom. I mean, for me, a hugely fortuitous penalty decision that really sort of changed the way that game went. But I can't see how that was given. But getting away from that, what it does do is give West Brom a massive lift coming into this game. The fact that they not only got that penalty decision, but they built on that. They went for it after that. Obviously, they had to, and it paid off within seconds with the Andy Carroll equaliser. So, when you see a player like Andy Carroll, who by all accounts has been such a sort of presence for West Brom, perhaps it hasn't quite been going right for him in front of goal. Obviously, it hasn't, with that being his first one for the club. But he's becoming that leader for West Brom. By all accounts, he's one who has, despite that poor run, won a bit of credit with the Baggies fans, it seems, for his sort of work rate and his efforts. So, they've got that focal point now who is making an impact. So I think that will be a massive lift for West Brom. And I think as well, Fulham are coming up into this off the back of a bit of a bloody nose in terms of the way that played out at Barnsley at the weekend. That's not a result that anyone will have expected to see. So, that maybe puts a bit of pressure under them, that West Brom, as I say, with the confidence boost they've had from that comeback, and, even seeing it out with that Andy Carroll goal line clearance, it's going to be a massive lift. The fact they're at home as well, and they know that they really are getting towards the point of no return in terms of they have to start winning now if they have any chance of making the top six. The crowd will be aware of that, so you would expect them to really be getting behind Steve Bruce's side here. So I can see West Brom trying to apply a lot of pressure to Fulham, but it'll just be a case of, I think, how can Fulham sort of respond to a bit of a below par result at the weekend. I mean, they should still have the quality to really sort of take the game back to West Brom here. And as I say, it's a tough one to call this for me, but it should be an eventful one, and it won't surprise me if we do see a few goals here.
I think it's fair to say Steve Bruce has not had the desired effect at West Bromwich Albion so far. Marcus, I remember a few months ago on Football League on TV, you kind of aired your you weren't too sure about the appointment, were you, back when it was announced? Do you think he's got any chance of kind of rejuvenating their fortunes between now and the end of the season, or are you expecting it to kind of continue in this quite stale manner?
I'm expecting it to continue, yes, to be honest. I think looking longer term, the Baggies should definitely be considering if they want Steve Bruce to manage them next season. His contract was until the summer of 2023. I think he can rejuvenate them a little bit, but it's not going to come in fixtures like tonight's game, one of the toughest ones of the season. And I almost see matches at the Hawthorns as more difficult for the Baggies than they have been on the road. Their one win of the Bruce era came in an away match at Hull City, and even though they're playing top of the league Fulham, I do feel like there'll be a lot of frustrations aired from the stands if they're not able to possibly even win the game. There is, of course, the chance that Fulham do turn up with Mitrovic chasing the record, Guy Whittingham's record of 42 goals, and they are back to their best that we didn't see at Oakwell at the weekend. And even though they're top of the league, that won't have, West Brom's sort of mentality in the Championship, even if they are top of the league, they'll be expecting to be able to assert themselves on the match. So I do think it's a difficult one. There's almost nothing to gain. I think West Brom could put in a very positive performance, maybe lose by one goal and draw the game, and it's still very hostile at the end of the match. So it's a tricky one for Steve Bruce to manage. Of course, there were positives from the closing exchanges of the Huddersfield Town match on Friday. They got an extra day to recover than Fulham, but I think it is quite an ominous task with Fulham looking to chase down the league title when they're almost like a bit of a wounded animal, possibly more dangerous after dropping points at Oakwell than they were had they picked up the expected 3. So, I do fear a bit for West Bromwich Albion tonight. Sam Johnston made a couple of mistakes against the Terriers. It'll be interesting to see how he bounces back with his contract up at the end of the season. So, I'm still not feeling great at all about West Brom, to be honest. And Fulham will be, very hungry to make up for lost time.
Yeah, tough evening you could imagine for West Bromwich Albion if Fulham are on it this evening. A few comments filtering in. Not that one. Fulham got that, according to Charles O. Wayne, Fulham will win 3-1. Come on, Fulham. Toby, let's get your score prediction.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. To be fair, I do feel like as much as West Brom might want to put the pressure on Fulham, and I'm sure they will. I just can't see with the quality that Fulham have anything other than an away win here. I say 2-1 Fulham.
2-1 Fulham. Marcus, what are you going for?
Yeah, same as Toby, 2-1 Fulham. I think that would be quite a good result for West Brom. I can see it getting ugly if Fulham are sort of comfortable by the hour mark. So yeah, 2-1 Fulham. I think they'll bounce back from the weekend.
There we go. Fulham wins all round in this one. Right, let's move down to League One. Okay, let's touch on Sheffield Wednesday against Accrington Stanley this evening. A big game for Wednesday. In particular, they currently sit 1 point off of the playoff zone right now with 64 points. Obviously, coming into this game off the back of a romping 6-0 win over Cambridge United on the weekend. Darren Moore's side in really, really strong form. They look well on course to finish in the top 6 if they continue on this upward trend. Toby, Accrington are notoriously not very good travellers on the road. They haven't won too many games away from home this season. Do you think Sheffield Wednesday are almost bankers here?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say about a banker against a team like Accrington who can sort of come up with a result from out of absolutely nowhere, as they've shown on plenty of occasions since they came up to League One. But I do still think that Wednesday should have this here. I mean, as you say, Accrington not strong on the road. Last time they were on the road at Portsmouth, they were playing a Pompey side who went down to 10 men after 20 minutes when they were only 1-0 up, and proceeded to concede 3 more and lose 4-0. So that sort of shows you the frailties that Accrington seem to have on the road. And obviously coming into this against the Sheffield Wednesday side, we're going to be absolutely flying after that result that they had at the weekend, 6-0 against Cambridge. And, you know, they obviously know as well, the Owls, that this is a massive sort of opportunity for them. When you sort of look at some of the other fixtures, Plymouth and Portsmouth up against each other, there's a chance while those sorts of teams are potentially taking points out of each other for Sheffield Wednesday to steal a bit of ground in the race for the playoffs. And I think as well, you know, there's been a lot of talk about where the goals coming from for the Owls this season. You know, there's sort of, I think Lee Gregory's top scorer with 8, but we saw Saido Berahino's hat-trick at the weekend. That's one of them. It was good to see a player with that sort of ability get back to that sort of quality that we all know he can have when he plays to his peak performance. And so, you know, as well as that, if that means that, you know, he can take that on from there, then Sheffield Wednesday have got that other outlet other than, say, Lee Gregory, who can step up and get the goals. And that could be absolutely massive for them, not just tonight, but also going on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, 11 goals in Sheffield Wednesday's last 2 home games. They really are finding the back of the net at Hillsborough with goals really from across the pitch at the moment. Marcus, you know, I've touched on Accrington's away form, only 3 league wins away from home this season for John Coleman's side. Do you give Stanley any hope this evening?
Well, as Toby kind of alluded towards, it depends which one shows up. I possibly do give them a chance because there is a lot of pressure on Wednesday, and you could argue maybe after a 6-0 win, they take this one a little bit lightly. Accrington, with a lot less to play for, almost become even more unpredictable than they already are. So I expect them to keep it tighter than, well, Cambridge did and some other sides have coming up against Wednesday. Although Lee Gregory coming back from injury, I think does make them even more sort of dangerous at the top of the pitch. His experience and just his incisive runs, he was really helping Wednesday carve the Yellows open with ease at the weekend and played a big hand in Berahino stealing the headlines. I think that midfield 3 is incredibly hard to deal with at League One level. Luongo, Bannon and George Byers will all probably be thinking that they should be playing in the Championship at this stage of their careers. So, of course, that's going to be a lot to manage for Accrington. Did, of course, beat Charlton at the weekend, so that should fuel them a little bit of belief. They have been very inconsistent this season. John Coleman seemed to sort of been waxing lyrical about his team and then wondering where he goes next after a poor run. So it's going to be interesting to see how they approach it. They usually only really play one way, but I think they can possibly shock a few people. Although Wednesday are playing like, well, automatic promotion contenders. They're probably a bit too late to get in there now, but in terms of the way they've been playing over the last few months, they've been up there with Rotherham and Wigan. So it's a very tough ask for them to take anything from Hillsborough.
Yeah, obviously both sides only played each other once competitively. That was a reverse fixture this season. Sheffield Wednesday came out victorious in that particular game. Toby, let's get your score prediction for Wednesday, Accrington tonight.
Yeah, as Marcus touches on, I don't think Accrington will allow Wednesday to run riot quite like Cambridge did at the weekend. But I think with the form they're in on their own patch and the form Accrington are in away from home, I do think it'll be another win for the Owls. I'll say 2-0.
2-0, Marcus.
Yeah, same as Toby once again. 2-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. Just too much quality. Even if Moore needs to use the bench, I can see them getting over the line quite comfortably in the end.
Okay, 2 Sheffield Wednesday wins there this evening from Toby and Marcus. Right, let's look at one more League One game next. Plymouth Argyle take on Portsmouth this evening in a big game at the top end of Sky Bet League One. Plymouth currently sit in 6th position inside the playoff zone right now. They do have a number of games on a few of the sides above them as well. So a victory tonight could really help them cement their top 6 spot. As for Pompey, they sit just outside in 10th position, but they are on a fantastic run of form. Danny Cowler's really got his side going and they have a genuine chance of breaking into that top 6. So this really is a big game at Home Park this evening. Toby, let's come to you then. I really can't split these two. Can you?
No, not really. It is a really tight one. And, both teams are going to know the importance of this. As you say, for Plymouth, it's a massive incentive this to, go out and get a win that not only puts the pressure on the sides above them in sort of the playoff race, but it puts that extra distance between them and a Portsmouth side who've been sort of in the sort of form that makes them, appear to be one of those who could make one of them infamous late charges out of nowhere to claim a top 6 place. So, it's a massive opportunity for Plymouth, but obviously also for Portsmouth because, they go there and get the win and, they're well in this playoff battle. But I think Plymouth coming into this one off the back of that win at Bolton at the weekend, obviously, Bolton are another one of those sides who was sort of showing the form that made you think, could they be the one that swoops in late and nicks a top 6 spot? And obviously Plymouth just sort of kept them at bay with that win, and that will give them a huge amount of belief coming into this one. Portsmouth, they again against another sort of playoff contender in Ipswich. That was just the goalless draw, so perhaps not quite as emphatic there, obviously, as it was for the hosts tonight. So yeah, it's going to be a really tight one to call because both of these sides are showing that they can sort of match teams in and around them, and that obviously does make it a really close game between two sides who are going to want to be there for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is a real and close encounter this evening. Again, just looking at that graphic on the screen, the previous 6 meetings, draw has been the favourable result over the course of the last 6 meetings between these two sides. Again, just showcasing how closely fought these games tend to be. Marcus, how do you see this one going? Are there any kind of players within both sides that you feel could almost dictate this game tonight?
I really liked Plymouth's midfield all season. I think Jordan Houghton's probably been an unsung hero and a player that's really sort of come of age this season, first under Ryan Lowe and now growing into his role under Stephen Schumacher. It's an interesting clash of styles, really, this matchup. Sometimes 3 at the back versus 3 at the back ends up being quite, sometimes produces a bit of a stalemate, but I don't think that will quite be the case. Plymouth are a little bit more direct and Pompey do tend to build from the back a little bit more. But yeah, I think Marlon Robio, right wing back as well, has been a player that's possibly gone under the radar for Portsmouth, at least in terms of his consistency as well. Will definitely be probably a player that they'll be looking at to try and bring in on a permanent basis if he's made available in the summer. But yeah, just mainly echoing the thoughts of Toby and yourself, Sam, that it is incredibly evenly matched and hard to call. And I don't think anyone would be surprised with the draw. Obviously, Plymouth will be hoping to pick up to the 3 points because if, as expected, Wednesday are able to win this evening, they'll probably jump above Argyle into the playoff places. So the pressure is still on, even despite the excellent run that they've put together under Schumacher. So it is a really enticing match. Obviously, the home advantage for Plymouth as well could give them an edge. And I would make them slight favourites just because Portsmouth, it is a bit more of a pipe dream for me if they're still in the playoff race.
Okay, Toby, let's get your score prediction for Plymouth Portsmouth tonight.
Yeah, as we've sort of been talking about over the past few minutes, that fence just looks pretty big and comfortable. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Okay, Marcus, what are you going for?
0-0. Yeah, a little bit less entertaining. I think two sort of tiring affairs at the weekend. Plymouth, excellent 1-0 win at Bolton, but the sort of output that took to blunt Ian Everett's men's attacking contingent would have been quite a lot of workload. And obviously Portsmouth getting a 0-0 draw at Ipswich as well. I think this one could possibly, due to the schedule, not be quite as exciting as maybe it would be on another day. So 0-0.
Okay, we shall see. Both Toby and Marcus opting for draws this evening between Plymouth and Portsmouth. Right, we're going to dive into League Two. We're going to look at one League Two fixture in particular. Okay, Swindon, they take on Sutton United in what is a real big clash in terms of the playoff race in Sky Bet League Two. The home side, Swindon, sit in 6th position, 1 point ahead of Matt Gray's Sutton United, who sit in 7th position. As you can see, it's been, for Sutton United, only 2 wins in their last 6, and going off how well they've done this season, they'll perhaps be a little bit disappointed at that. But of course, they did reach the final of the EFL trophy, a real mammoth achievement for them, given it is their first ever season in the English Football League. They'll be taking on Rotherham United in that final on April the 3rd. Swindon, though, they are in good form, 4 wins in their last 6 games, including a real last gasp winner from Conroy last time out against Oldham. Really helped their push for promotion. Toby, again, this feels to me like it could be a real close one.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, both teams have got massive incentive there, haven't they, with this playoff race? And yeah, as you say, that late win is going to be a massive sort of lift to Swindon that came at the weekend against Oldham. Obviously, it's one that they would have been expected to win when you sort of look at Oldham's position in the table. And obviously, with that, the fact that there has been so much made of sort of Swindon's struggles on their own patch this season. So, the fact that one way or another they managed to sort of go out there and get that win out at the county ground at the weekend will be a huge relief for them. It'll lift a bit of the pressure, give them a bit of confidence that they can do that. That being said, Sutton are going to provide a lot bigger challenge even after their recent run, you would imagine, given they are right in that playoff race. And, if you'd offered it to a Sutton fan at the start of the season, you imagine they would have been more than happy with this position, and they deserve a great deal of credit for getting into this sort of stage of the season and being in that playoff race, because I think, consolidation would have been the main priority for Sutton this season. So they've gone above and beyond that, whilst, as you say, sort of combining that with an excellent EFL trophy run. So it's been an excellent season. Whatever happens from here on in, they've more than achieved what they probably set out to do. But that being said, having got into this position, they will be one of those sides who might be left feeling like this is a bit of a missed opportunity if they don't at least go on and get a playoff place come the end of the season. So with that in mind, this is a big chance for them to take points off a playoff rival, and they too are going to be putting a lot of pressure on the Swindon here. And you would imagine they'll be well aware of that home sort of form that hasn't really taken off for Swindon this season, and I would expect Sutton to be looking to take advantage of that.
Yeah, Swindon coming to this game without the services of Harry McCurdy, who has, of course, enjoyed a really fruitful season for the Robins this term. Marcus, do you think Swindon are favourites tonight for this one, or again, is it a game that's really close to call?
It is very even. I'd say they're probably rightful narrow favourites. Swindon. It was a bit of a after the Lord Mayor Show's occasion, Sutton's 1-0 defeat at Walsall at the weekend. Obviously, coming down from that high at Wigan in midweek, they'll be looking to get back to it at Swindon, and obviously it is a huge opportunity. If they win the game, then their chances of playing, of finishing in the playoff places will go up significantly. McCurdy's a big loss, but I do think they've got the talent in the squad to make up for that. I think Jack Payne has an outstanding season in midfield, and he'll be able to continue to contribute in the closing exchanges. A player with decent experience in the EFL, and combining with the likes of Josh Davison at the top of the pitch as well. I think there is still a significant enough attacking threat for Ben Garner's men to be confident of breaking Sutton down. They also been playing the same system all season, so it's almost like for like. You know what your job's going to be. They know it like the back of their hands, so hopefully that can help them out. Obviously, Sutton are very tough to play against. They can be very direct if they want to, quite flexible still though under Matt Gray. It's going to be interesting to see how they recover after what was a very exhausting week last week. But I do think Swindon still carry a very significant attacking threat, sort of relative to the other teams in League Two, even without the likes of Harry McCurdy tonight.
Okay, Toby, what's your score prediction for Swindon Sutton tonight?
It's a tight one. I've just got a sort of funny feeling for Sutton here, so I'll go 2-1 away win.
Okay, Marcus, what are you going for?
I'll go 2-2. I think an enterprising match, definitely a good one for the neutral this one, but I'm going to go 2-2.
Okay, 2-2. There we go. Good to hear your thoughts. Okay, well, that concludes today's Tuesday night EFL preview show here on Football League World TV. Toby, Marcus, thanks for joining me this afternoon. Thanks to everyone tuning in and watching across all the platforms that we broadcast on. Just a heads up for tomorrow. We've got 2 more shows coming up for you on Football League World TV. In the morning, we're going to be debating QPR and their hopes of finishing in the playoffs. And then later on, same time tomorrow, we've got the EFL Wednesday night preview. We've got championship fixtures tomorrow evening as well. So plenty of action to get stuck into. If you're watching this on repeat on YouTube, please do stick a like in below this video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It really does help us grow as a channel. But from myself, Toby, and Marcus, we shall see you soon.